Police in Wisconsin definitely have their own rap sheet when it comes to deadly force, especially on Black and brown people. And beyond police departments, Wisconsin is also one of the most segregated states in the country, and Milwaukee and Racine are consistently listed as two of the worst cities for Black Americans to live. And since this whole thing is about excessive police force, I got to wondering what's been attempted in regards to police reform in Wisconsin. Here's what I found. In 2014, Wisconsin lawmakers passed a law that requires external investigations of police-involved deaths, which was seen as a successful step. This year, there was a proposed bill to help standardize the use of police body cams. And there was another bill introduced that would regulate how police departments use deadly force, but it failed in committee. In 2016, the Milwaukee Police Department was under review of the Department of Justice. And one of the things that came out of that review was the Community Collaborative Committee, whose purpose is to build trust between the police and the community. And last fall, the CCC presented their community report to the City Council and the Fire and Police Commission. I couldn't find any information on whether any of their recommendations have been implemented. As far as legal attempts for reform, there's been plenty of civil lawsuits over police brutality in Milwaukee. Fun fact, from 2015 to 2017, $21 million of Milwaukee taxpayer money was spent on police misconduct settlements. This is on top of the fact that 47% of Milwaukee's budget is allocated to their police department. The only recent successful police reform lawsuit I found was from 2018 when Milwaukee settled with the ACLU and agreed to end their stop and frisk program. Moving on to Madison. In true Madison form, most of its reform efforts seem to be paying out the nose for multi-year studies and forming so many committees. There's the Madison Police Department Policy, Procedure, and Review Ad Hoc Committee. There's talk about creating a Madison Police Department Ad Hoc Recommendation Oversight Committee. And earlier this year, the city created the Body-Worn Camera Feasibility Review Committee. Last year, a 4-year independent review of the police department was completed and provided 177 recommendations. The only thing I could find as far as which of those recommendations are being implemented is that Mayor Rhodes Conway put aside money in her proposed budget to fund an independent police monitor position. As for other cities, I couldn't really find anything, which doesn't mean attempts aren't being made. Maybe I just maxed out my Googling ability. So there have been attempts. And from what I can find, it feels like a lot of money is being spent on police training programs and a lot of committees and coalitions conducting studies and reports, but not a lot of information on implementation of recommendations or data measuring improvements. Again, doesn't mean it doesn't exist, I just didn't find it. So what? Well, if you found yourself suddenly really caring about this issue, you can call your mayor or police departments and ask what training programs are required and what their force policies are. You can find out how much of your city budget goes to the police force and ask yourself if you think that's an appropriate amount. You can also vote in your local and state elections, since those are the positions that can tailor any reform to your community's unique needs and population. Specifically, mayors, sheriffs, city council, and district attorneys. And at the state level, pay attention to the track record of lawmakers. What's their voting record on bills that criminalize more activities versus police accountability proposals? And finally, try listening to the people who interact with the police the most and what changes they're asking for. I can only speak for myself, but I haven't interacted with the police that much. I can count on one hand how many times I've dealt with the police, including the time I was rocking out to Hey Ya and didn't realize I was driving 90 on the freeway. I don't really know diddly squat about what works to improve relationships with the police, because I have basically zero firsthand experience. If you have a similar amount of experience, it's worth being open-minded and listening to the groups of people who get policed the most. Consider what improvements they're asking for and take them seriously. Improvements like reallocating city budgets, since public safety can be improved by investing in schools, housing, employment, and healthcare. Or asking that police live where they work. Or wanting police officers who are culturally competent about the community they work in. For example, they speak Spanish if they mostly work in a Spanish-speaking neighborhood. If you care about this, for once you can do something about it. It's actually an example of where a community bottoms-up approach is more appropriate, because what's best for Minocqua is different than what's best for Platteville and is different than what's best for Milwaukee. Which is great, because that means for once you don't have to wait for Congress or the state legislature to stop squabbling in order to make something happen.